Uh, we are on second session of third day of our FDP. Today, in this session, we have Dr. Manu KV. He is an associate professor of aerospace engineering at Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology, Trivandrum, Kerala. He has completed PhD from IISc Bangalore in 2013, and his group works on the fundamental and applications of boundary layer transition and flow instabilities. His expertise is prediction and control of turbulence and associated transport phenomena. Dr. Manu, please take over the session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Swaraj. Let me share the screen. Is the screen visible? Yeah, okay. Thank you, Suraj, for the invitation. So I'm and a warm good morning to all. So I'm Manu K. Vasudevan, associate professor at IST Trivandrum. So in fact, I'm working in the area of direct numerical simulation and some fundamental aspect of flow instability. Okay, so today I will talk about a method in which commonly used in CFD, which is known as the immerse boundary method, and how we can implement immerse boundary method to a Navier-Stokes solver using a finite difference scheme. Okay, so let me give an overview of the presentation. So I'll start an introduction on immerse boundary method. What are the advantages of this technique compared with other CFD techniques? And then I will go through the finite difference method, the basics of finite difference method, how we can solve a partial differential equation using a finite difference method. So it will be more related to the Navier-Stokes equation, or solving Navier-Stokes equation using a finite difference method for incompressible flows. Then I'll try to introduce the immerse boundary method, the methodology behind immerse boundary method. Then finally, I will give some examples of immerse boundary method, which we had done at IIST, and the code developed by some of my PhD student and MTech students. Yeah, so this will be the overview of the today's presentation. So let me start with showing the advantage of immerse boundary method. So we all know the difficulty associated with the meshing of meshing part associated with the CFD, and how much time we have to spend for creating the mesh and analyzing the grid accuracy and other aspects. So in fact, so this method, immerse boundary method, which will allow us to use the Cartesian grid itself. So the meshing part is extremely extremely simple. And another advantage of immerse boundary method is so that we can move the object quite easily. Suppose we are doing a problem like moving object, or a vortex induced vibration, or or we want to study the fluid structure interaction. So this kind of method is extremely useful for solving. So unlike a conventional CFD method, which requires mesh that fits the boundary of the computational domain, so IBM allows to simulate boundaries on Cartesian grid itself. Okay, so it can easily handle moving object and deforming object, and also extremely complex geometry embedded in fluid flow as well. So this is one of the most advantage aspect of immersed boundary method. The meshing part is extremely easy. Of course, there are some drawbacks associated with that aspect as well. Yeah. However, nowadays with powerful computers, we can get quite accurate solution using this particular technique. Okay, so the problem or the equations which we are which I am using is incompressible Navier-Stokes equations. Of course, IBM can easily apply for compressible flows as well. However, my area of interest is in the incompressible flow. So these are the set of equations which will be solved by immersed boundary methods. So of course, this is a continuity equation and the Navier-Stokes equations. So one of the way to handle this immersed boundary method is using a forcing term on the right hand side. So which is extremely important when we are dealing with immersed boundary method. So we can see this is nothing but Newton's second law of motion. So the inertia force balanced with the pressure force and viscous force. And here we are adding a force which is related to which will handle the immersed boundary method part. Okay, and these are the conventional notation. Vector velocity is v, pressure is p, and time is t, and density and viscosity are rho and mu respectively. Okay, so now let's look at the two-dimensional part, which is little more easy to understand rather than. So in fact, once we developed a code for two-dimensional flows, most of the developing part is over. The rest part is more of expanding the code and parallelizing the code part. So I'll focus on the two-dimensional part. Of course, we can apply this is for three-dimensional flows as well. So this is the non-dimensional governing equation. The first equation 3 is the continuity equation, and 4 and 5 are the momentum equation in x and y direction. Okay, so so in today I'll give some introduction for solving this set of equation using a immersed boundary method and combination with finite difference scheme. Okay, so let me start with giving the basics of a finite difference. So in order to solve this set of equation in finite difference method, we convert this into a difference equation, this partial differential equation into a difference equation. Then numerically, we can solve this set of equations. So let me start giving the basics of finite difference schemes, which we are familiar with. So it's all start with the discretization part. How once we selected a flow domain, we can discretize the domain into different points, grid points, and we can apply the Taylor series expansion and apply at the grid points and convert the partial differential equation to a difference equation. So yeah, and depending upon the required accuracy and we can take more terms in the Taylor series expansion and get higher order schemes. Okay, for example, suppose so these are some of the schemes which we can use for starting purpose. Let me say this is for the basics part of the finite difference method, the discretization of first order derivative and the second order derivative. There are different way to get an expression for the partial u by partial x, the first order derivative of velocity. The first one is the forward difference representation. In this case, we take the point next to the on the, we can say, on the right hand side of the desired point, or it's a forward, the forward point we can take and calculate the gradient. And another method is taking the backward difference, which is ui minus 1 by delta x, and we can take a central difference formula by taking the I plus 1 and I minus 1 point, and its order of accuracy is delta x square. And similar way, we can calculate all the gradients present in the Navier-Stokes equation. So in fact, in Navier-Stokes equation, the highest derivative is second. So we can look at the second order difference equation, dou square u by dou x square, which we can discretize using and all this expression we can obtain from the Taylor series expansion, and this is the expression for second order difference. Now let's try to reach the Navier-Stokes equation step by step. So the first part which we can look at from the Navier-Stokes equation is the convective part, and so we can say the temporal acceleration and the convective acceleration associated with the Navier-Stokes equation. So to start the proceedings, we can look at the linear convection equation, which is dou u by dou t plus c dou u by dou x. This is a first order equation, and it's a linear equation. So if we take c is a constant, it's a linear partial differential equation, and we can get the gradient using different schemes. So to make life simple, I'm using a first order accurate, the delta t accurate schemes for temporal discretization, and for obtaining a spatial discretization, I'm using a backward scheme. So this combination, how to select a scheme, depends upon many factors like the stability and the consistency. So these things are extremely important while selecting the schemes. So which depends upon the kind of equation which we are handling. So for this linear convection equation, which we can write using the finite difference equation in this particular form, and this we can solve easily as an initial value problem. Once we know the initial condition, we can march forward and obtain the value at next time. So here n plus 1 represent the value of velocity at next time interval, but after delta t interval. So these are the value. So our aim is to calculate the time advancement once we know the initial condition, how the velocity, or how the properties will change with respect to time. Okay, so this is the expression which we can get from the Gavarni equation. So we converted the Gavarni equation into the finite difference equation. Okay, this is the first part. Then we can proceed further. Once we know the initial condition and the boundary conditions, we can proceed the further. But there are important aspects associated with these equations. So for example, if you look at the second term on the right hand side, there are terms like c delta t by delta x. So we have to be extremely careful with that particular number, c delta t by delta x. So yeah, so the increments, the time advancement and delta x are related. Otherwise, this scheme will give a wrong solution, or the code will blow. Okay, so this is related to the stability of the finite difference equation. So this is another important aspect, the kind of boundary condition which we are handling, which is extremely important. So take any partial differential equation, we can get n number of solutions depending upon the boundary condition. So for example, if you look at the Laplace equation, there are n number of solutions as shown here. U is equal to x square minus y square e to the power x cos phi. These are some of the solutions. But for a physical problem, we have to, depending upon the boundary conditions, we will get a unique solution for that particular problem. So, even though there are n number of solutions, the which is applicable for a particular problem depends upon the boundary condition. So these are the some of the classical boundary conditions which we commonly use in CFD. So first one is the Dirichlet boundary condition. In that case, we will impose the exact value. For example, suppose we know the velocity at one particular boundary, we can give that particular value and proceed further. And in some case, we may have to give the derivative boundary condition. For example, when we are dealing with slip condition, partial slip condition, the slip boundary condition, we may have to give a gradient boundary condition, or like when we are dealing with a heat transfer, the Q or the heat transfer coefficient, or the Q, the heat flux. So in that case, we have to give a derivative boundary condition. Whereas Dirichlet boundary conditions, something like a no-slip boundary condition, we are giving the exact value. Sometimes we have to give a relation between velocity and the gradient. Something like the velocity is related to the gradient itself. So such boundary conditions are Robin boundary conditions. So these are some typical boundary conditions associated with any fluid dynamics problem. So now let's look at the solution. So this is the first step of solving the Navier-Stokes equation. So how we can solve this particular equation using the finite difference schemes. So for example, we look at initial condition and the velocity is distributed in a form as shown in this equation. So you can see this is a step variation. So between a 0.5 to 1, the velocity is high. This is a spatial distribution, and it is moving at a velocity c. So you can see this is nothing but the one-dimensional form of a wave equation. So this part, and as time propagates, this particular wave will move to a different location. So depending upon the convective speed of that particular problem. So it depends upon the convective speed, it depends upon the value of c. Okay, so now let's look at the solution of this equation. So yeah, this is the solution which we get once we solve the Navier's the linear convection equation. So you can see we have to be so for this case, I've taken a particular value of c delta t by delta x. So that I'm getting a solution. Okay, so now suppose I'm varying the value of c delta t by delta x into a limit which is higher than a particular value, which is higher than 1. So let's see how the solution behave. So you can see the code is blowing. In the sense, you can see that in the y-axis, the values are extremely high, and we are getting a wrong solution. So we have to be extremely careful with the time advancement delta t, which we have to calculate prior to the simulation. So now you can see this is related to the par u delta x by delta t, or c delta t by delta x. So this is called the Courant number, which is an extremely important number for unsteady flows. So you can see one case on the left. First animation, we see a value which is a low value. We are getting the solution. Once it's exceeded a critical value, it's blowing. Okay, so this is one of the important aspect of or CFD thing, the step size calculation prior to the simulation. So you can see the Courant number relation. So for that particular scheme, for stability condition, the Courant number must be equal or smaller than 1. So this we get from stability calculation, which I'll try to cover quickly. Okay, and for two-dimensional flows, we have to look at both aspects. Suppose we are solving three-dimensional equations, we have to look at all 3 dimensions. So this is an extremely important calculation prior to the simulation. So now let's look at the diffusion equation. Okay, so the next step. So there's a balance between temporal acceleration and viscous diffusion. It's a very textbook problem. So we started with linear convection, then I'm combining temporal acceleration with convection, so that we are moving close to the Navier-Stokes equation. And so if we are learning in this particular way, I think it will be easy for us to solve the Navier-Stokes equation rather than directly jumping into the Navier-Stokes equation, especially from, I'm talking from an academic point of view. If you are, especially if you tell your students to start coding, they may find it extremely difficult, but if they are following this, I felt it is extremely useful for them to follow this particular procedure, start with a linear convection, then advance to the viscous diffusion. And if they can build from one-dimensional to two-dimensional, I seen they progress extremely fast. Okay, so I'm following that same method. So we uh, in this is the first order diffusion equation. This is a second order term on the right hand side, which is delta x square accuracy, and using this schemes we can get a delta x square accuracy scheme. So the procedure is the same. We can discretize the temporal part, and we can discretize the right hand side as well. Then we write the expression for n+1. So this is our aim, and we'll calculate at all I. Okay, so this is all I, and time advancement we'll calculate using this equation. So we converted the difference, partial differential PDE into a finite difference equation. Now let's look at the same problem. Okay, so let's look at the same problem and see its solution. So in this solution, I'm using an initial condition which is same as the previous one. Then but the nature of equation which we are solving is different. So this is a diffusion problem. So it is it's not convecting, it is diffusing. So it's a parabolic like PDE. So it is diffusing as time propagates. Okay, let's look at the solution. Okay, so this is the initial condition. Unlike the convection problem, which is the convective part or the advective part which is moving. So this is the diffusive nature. So you can see how the diffusive nature is present in the solution. It's diffused into the in both direction. So it's like, for example, if you look at the heat diffusion equation or a momentum diffusion equation, heat will diffuse to the neighboring points depending upon its kinematic viscosity or its thermal diffusivity. Okay, so yeah, so this is yeah. In fact, if you look at this particular equation, so the most important number is or most important part is nu delta T by delta x square. So this is also extremely important number. So depending upon that particular value, we will get either stable solution or unstable solution, and that particular value we have to determine using the stability calculation. Okay, so let's look at a case where it is blowing. Okay, so this, suppose we are using a value for nu delta T by delta x square, which you can see it's blowing, and the solution is diverging, and we have to be extremely careful with two time scale in this kind of cases. When we are dealing with the Navier-Stokes equation, we have to look at the Courant number as well as the diffusive time scale. So we can see in the right hand side, once we select a value which is higher than a particular number, the code will blow. Okay, so but this, okay, before that let me talk. This is which we are the development, the code development which I am using. It's it's called the explicit method. It is it is not that stable method. So there are methods to avoid this kind of instability or numerical blowing. So if suppose we are using different schemes like implicit scheme or another schemes, we can avoid this kind of instability issues, but computationally it is more expensive. Okay, so let me talk about the different schemes like explicit scheme and implicit scheme. So for example, the schemes which we discussed uh, so far are all explicit schemes. So the values which we have to calculate in the next time step are related to the values at the previous time steps. Okay, so you can look at the superscript n+1, and on the right hand side it is all n. Okay, so on the right hand side all values are known and prior, whereas on the left hand side this is the unknown. Okay, so its information is propagating from the backward time to the forward time without including the present time status. Okay, but there are some other techniques like an implicit method. So where we can use the present time step information to calculate and modify accordingly. Okay, so instead of using the previous time information, we can use the present time information as well. However, we don't know the present time information. That's we are trying to calculate. So we have to solve a set of equations. So which is computationally expensive, but the advantage part is it is stable. Unlike explicit method we have to select extremely low values of delta t. But in case of this kind of implicit method, the values of delta t can be much higher than the value which we normally take for in explicit scheme. Yeah, but the computational expensive part is the solution, solving a set of algebraic equations. So there are different methods to solve a set of linear equations. So depending upon that scheme, like tridimensional TDMA scheme or ADI schemes. So there are many schemes to solve a set of linear equations. So depending upon the schemes, we can improve the solution. We can fast up the computational time, and also we can go relative. We can take a high value of delta t. Okay, and there are some more uh, let's say more accurate schemes. So if you take a look at this one, this is of our delta t accurate schemes. Okay, so there are schemes like a Crank-Nicolson scheme which uses a combination of explicit and implicit, and advantage is instead of a delta t accuracy we can get a delta t square accuracy, and also solving part also it is simple. So this scheme is called the Crank-Nicolson scheme. We use information prior as well as information in the current time steps. Okay, so this is a general form of a finite difference scheme for diffusion equation. So depending upon the value of B, we can get different schemes. For example, if you are using a beta is equal to 0, this will be an implicit scheme. If beta is equal if beta is equal to 0, we'll get explicit scheme. If beta is equal to 1, we'll get a implicit scheme. So depending upon the value of beta, we can get different schemes like a Crank-Nicolson and other thing. So now let's look at the stability aspect of this equation. For beta is equal to 0, it is conditionally stable. So we see in explicit schemes, so where it is for some particular value, for some particular condition, it is stable, whereas implicit schemes for this particular formulation, it is unconditionally stable. So we can go for any value of delta t and we'll get a stable solution. But we have to solve a set of differential equation. Okay, so yeah. Now let's look at this next step. So we are looking at the two-dimensional diffusion equations. So we can proceed in a similar way. Once we followed a step procedure, we can easily expand into, once we wrote a code for one-dimensional schemes, we can easily expand into two-dimensional case by introducing a new variable or new subscript j. So j is in the variation in the y direction. So we can discretize the time using let's say we can discretize using a delta t accurate schemes. Then we can write dou square u by dou x square. This is dou square u by dou x square, and it is I is varying, I is in the x direction, whereas in the dou square u by dou y square, I is constant and j is varying. Okay, and our task is to calculate the velocity at next time step. So uij n plus 1, we can write it in the this particular format. And so there are two important combinations of time and delta time step and spatial discretization, nu delta t by delta x square and nu delta t by delta y square. So this case also you can see the method is only stable for very low values of rx plus ry. So this which we can get from stability analysis for delta x is equal to 0 and delta x is equal to delta y. The requirement is r should be less than 1 by 4. If r is higher than 1 by 4, the code will blow. Let's look at the solutions. So this is for low values of the diffusion of rx plus ry. Okay, so we are getting a exact diffusion. We are getting a stable solution, and diffusion is visible. We started with a sharp variation, and because of the diffusion, it is propagating into all direction. You can see the three-dimensional view, and this is the two-dimensional view. So this is for low values of rx plus ry. Suppose we are going into the unstable values. Suppose we are moving faster, so the code will blow. So that's what will happen. So for large values of delta t, or if we are moving it fast, code will blow and we will not get solution. So it's all depends upon the stability criteria. And let's quickly go through the let's try to understand the meaning of stability. So to understand that, we can look at an ordinary differential equation. This is the same applicable for partial differential equation as well. Suppose we have a solution like this, an ordinary differential equation like this, ut is equal to au. The derivative is proportional to the function itself, so the exponential growth function. So we all know the exponential growth problems, like all the pandemic are growing exponentially. So yeah, so this is the differential equation, exponential growth equation. The derivative is proportional to the function itself, and we can write the finite difference formulation. This is the explicit formulation. So we can look at un plus 1 by un, and this is the growth factor, and we can look at the stable values. Okay, this is one very simple way of looking at. There are better methods. So try to understand the in order to understand the basics, this simple equation is sufficient. So we can see for stable solution, it should not grow. So it should not grow means the g value means un plus 1 by un should be less than 1. So this is the condition for stability. So we can see a delta t should be greater than -2. So this condition has to be satisfied in order to get a stable solution. If it is violating, code will blow. Okay, whereas if you look at an implicit scheme, so we'll get a growth factor g which is equal to 1 minus a delta t. Irrespective of the value, it is always stable. Okay, so implicit scheme is always unconditionally stable. It's always stable for this particular equation. So now let's look at the stability analysis of the diffusion equation. There are different methods to calculate the stability conditions. So one is Neumann stability analysis. So we'll add a perturbation and see whether the perturbation will grow or the perturbation will die down. And a perturbation means it's a combination of a sine and a cosine, so which we can easily add by adding a e to the power I theta, which is cos and sine. So we can add a perturbation and see whether whether it is amplifying or it is decaying. So we can add a perturbation on both sides and calculate the growth factor, which is un plus 1 by un, and get this condition. And we can get the stability condition, which is d less than or equal to 1 by half. So suppose we are doing a stability analysis d is nu delta t by delta x square here, nu delta t by delta x square, which is d. Suppose we are taking a value which is higher than half, the code will blow. So that's what we observed on the second, on all cases, the second equations, the code was blowing because of the because the value of d is much higher than the value which predicted by the stability analysis. Okay, so another important aspect is the consistency analysis, which is also extremely important for any finite difference schemes. So this is related to the formulation part. Suppose if you are taking schemes, or yeah, we can say the method is only consistent, and if in the difference equation, if we approach delta t and delta x approaches 0, so that the original PD, we should get the original PD. Okay, so let's look at this example. For example, we take this particular equation and we try to get the same difference equation, finite partial differential equation using the Taylor series expansion. So we can see the Taylor series expansion and we can write the combination and substitute and get the solution like this. Okay, so one side we have used a first order accurate schemes. On the right hand side we use a second order accurate scheme. Okay, so time is first order accurate and space is second order accurate. So suppose we are making a combination of first order and second order accuracy. So you can see the left hand side, there are terms like dou square u by dou t square into delta t by 2 plus order of delta t square, and the right hand side it is second order, spatially second order accuracy. Okay, suppose delta x goes to 0, delta t goes to 0, we obtain the Governing equation, the same Governing equation. Okay, so in this problem it looks very simple, but in some schemes consistency can create problem, like terms like delta t by delta x square will come. So what may happen, or delta x square, delta x by delta t terms will happen. So because of delta low values of delta t or delta x, the denominator will be a very low value compared with the numerator, and the code can blow because of this difference in yeah, because of the combination of delta x by delta t or delta t by delta x. Okay, so this is also extremely important condition. So yeah, this is the important theorem, so which we have to, so we have to look at the consistency part as well as the stability part. So this is one of the most important thing with the numerical schemes. So yeah, we have to look at the convergent part, consistency part, stability part. Okay, so the method is convergent if and only, yeah, can, yeah. So this is for we have to look at both aspects. We have to look at the consistency aspect as well as the stability part. Okay, so now let's look at how we handle the conservation of mass. Okay, so far we discussed that we looked at the Navier-Stokes equation. So we can write all the terms in the Navier-Stokes equation using any spatial discretization scheme combined with the time advancement. So now we can easily discretize the Navier-Stokes equation and get the difference equation. So now the problem is, how do we include the conservation of mass equation for incompressible flow? Okay, so what we are trying to solve, we are trying to solve U and V and pressure. So if we look at a two-dimensional problem, we have to look at X component, Y component, and its relation with pressure. So rest of the things are fluid properties. So unfortunately, or the physics, from physics point of view, there is no pressure term in the conservation of mass. Okay, so to get a solution for expression for pressure, we have to use the conservation of mass equation together with the finite together with the Navier-Stokes equation and get an expression for pressure, which we can try to solve for incompressible flow. Unlike a compressible flow where pressure is pressure is directly related to the other properties like ideal gas law or any equations. So there is no such expression for pressure in incompressible flow. So we have to get an expression for pressure, so that we have 3 unknowns and 3 set of equation, and we can include pressure in the conservation of mass equation. So we can get a Poisson equation which we can get from the Navier-Stokes equation combining with the conservation of mass. So unlike Navier-Stokes equation, so this equation, it's not an initial value problem, it's a boundary value problem. We have to know the values at the boundaries and solve this set of equations, solve this particular equation. There's no set of equation, there's only one equation for pressure. This is a Poisson equation, a Laplace on the right hand side there is a term, so it's like there's a constant on the right hand side on the Laplace equation, so we'll get a Poisson equation. So we have to solve 3 equations for in a 2-dimensional flows. So we have to solve 2 initial value problems, and we have to also solve a boundary value problems like a Poisson equation. Okay, so now let's look at how do we handle this part. So these are the set of equation. So dou u by dou t, dou v by dou t, and the expression for Poisson equations, which we can modify and write it in this particular form. Okay, so now these 2 are initial value problem. This is a boundary value problem, and we can discretize all the terms in the Navier-Stokes equation. So this is one way of doing it, and we can get a difference equation and calculate the values at the n+1 time. Once we know the initial condition and boundary condition, we can get the values at the next time step. And we have to extremely careful with the times delta t and delta x. We have to look at all the important time scales. We have to look at the time scales involved in the problem. That is also an extremely important thing. Okay, so this is how we advance, how we go to the next time steps. Once we know the value, we can calculate it at n+1 time by knowing the previous value and this right hand side, and multiply with delta t. This is very delta t accurate schemes. So this is Euler scheme or Euler method, and we can calculate the velocity component in x and y direction by this advancement. And now suppose we want to get a better accurate time advancement scheme. There are a lot of schemes available like Runge-Kutta method or Adam-Bashforth schemes. So we can use a different combination. So these are all standard numerical time advancement schemes, multi-time steps method, which we can use for better accuracy. Okay, so however, so this is all related to the time advancement and the accuracy. Okay, now let's look at how do we include the immerse boundary method part. Okay, so in immerse boundary method part, we are using a function fxt. So as I pointed out, there is a function fxt. Okay, so in case of, okay, sorry for this term RIT, this is not present in case of if suppose we are not solving temperature equation, this will be 0. Ri, we can treat Ri as 0. Okay, so this is from, if suppose we are solving the temperature also, then we can there will be some terms. Okay, so this is nothing to do with the Navier-Stokes equation. So this is coming from the gravitational effect. Okay, so we are including a force function f, and we are including a masking function. Okay, so this is the important part. So the grid will be Eulerian in nature, and we add some points which is a Lagrangian in nature. Okay, this is a combination of Eulerian and Lagrangian approach. So this point can move around, and we can define that point. Suppose we know the expression for that particular shape, we can define that and control those Lagrangian points and define the values of or the body using this particular condition. Okay, so we can use this particular function, masking function epsilon, which is one inside the body. So what will happen inside the body? This will go to 0 and we'll get Laplace equation. And suppose we are using epsilon equal to 0, we'll get a Poisson equation. Okay, and we can define the body and put a target value on the, suppose the body is moving at a particular velocity. So we define a velocity for that particular body. So we can define that particular body and include it in the Navier-Stokes equation code. So it is extremely easy. Once we have a two-dimensional, once we have a Navier-Stokes equation, we can easily add this particular part. And there are better way to solve the Poisson equations. Okay, so we can easily solve Poisson equation using a finite difference method, or if you want a more accurate method, there are schemes like FFT based solver. So which I'm not going in detail. I think that is itself is a separate topic, and we can improve the speed in each time step. Okay, we can improve the accuracy, we can improve the speed by taking different schemes. But this part, so in fact, suppose we are solving using a spectral solver for a Poisson equation, so we'll get a faster solution and accurate solution. So let's look at some of the examples which we have solved using our code. So this case, we solved the Navier-Stokes equation and energy equation, and we included the body in the computational domain. So we can select any body, and here the body is oscillating. Okay, so this is unlike a stationary case, the body is oscillating, and we selected the boundary condition, we solved the Navier-Stokes equation. Okay, so this is schematic of the computational domain. Then, yeah, so in this case, the body is moving. Okay, so in fact, unlike other case, we can easily include the immerse boundary method part and apply the oscillation. Okay, let me show the solution first. Yeah, so you can see here we can give easily control the motion of the body, unlike some of the schemes. So we can easily apply, it's extremely simple to apply a moving object and complex geometry as well. So you can see in this simulation, the body is moving in the x direction. Yeah, and it's moving like a sin omega in sin omega t. So this case, the body is moving in the vertical velocity, and we have solved the, this is inbuilt code. So it's developed my MTech student. So here we can, yeah, this is moving in a vertical direction, and suppose you want to study a force induced vibration case, or yeah, many complex geometries, this kind of methods are extremely useful. Okay, so now let's look at another example where the body is extremely complex. Okay, so unlike a conventional academic geometry, so we selected a relatively complex geometry. So you can see there is a, it's like a hill. Okay, you can think that this is like a hill, and this is a three-dimensional problem. Okay, so this is a three-dimensional problem. And we know the expression of the body. Okay, this is an expression of this is a three-dimensional body, and we know the equation of this particular body. And once we know the equations, we can include it in the geometry in the equation. And so in this problem, we have selected a varying time inflow. So this, yeah, I'm not going deep into the reason of selecting such governing equation. And we solve the Navier-Stokes equation using immerse boundary method. Unlike, so for example, if you look at this particular problem, so if you're using a conventional method, so the grid generation part is little complex. Okay, so we have to use complex mesh. Okay, so yeah, so we can, it's not that complex, but the meshing part is not that smooth for this kind of geometry. We may have to split into different region. So unlike such method, immerse boundary method, we can use a Cartesian mesh itself. Okay, and these are the some of the solutions which we have obtained from two-dimensional simulation and three-dimensional simulation as well. So, in fact, this three-dimensional part, okay, so let me talk about this particular problem. In fact, this part we tried with a open code available in internet. It's an open code. It's using it's called Incompact 3D. It uses compact schemes, and it's use it is sixth order accurate. So the accuracy is much higher, and this is open. It's available. It's a Fortran based code. So we use that code, and also we have checked with our code. So what we are ready to complete the three-dimensional code. So for performing a three-dimensional simulation, these are from the openly available code, Fortran based code. It's called Incompact 3D. Yeah, so we can see the difference between a 2D simulation and 3D simulation. So the initial part, the shear layer vortices formation are identical for two-dimensional and three-dimensional cases. However, once it's developed, structures will start to break in case of three-dimensional flows, whereas the structures are relatively big in case of 2D. So this is another important aspect when we are dealing with CFD problems, whether to go for a 2D problem or a 3D problem. So you can see at this particular case, at later flow time, the code, the structures are breaking into small, and yeah, it's, and the difference between 2D code and 3D code is evident. Okay, so let me show some of the results which we obtained using the three-dimensional code. Yeah, so you can see these are the some of the structures identified using a different condition like a vorticity condition, and yeah, so you can see yeah, so I'm telling that for such problems we have to look at the three-dimensional aspect as well. So let me show the video which the three-dimensional video for that particular problem. So in this problem, we selected a ramping function initially. So you can say the inlet velocity is varying with time, then it is stationary, then finally it is decelerating. So you can see at once flow developed, the shear layer vortices will start to form, and then we are suddenly decelerating the flow, and the structures will be extremely complicated in the decelerating part. So this picture shows the inlet velocity variation. Yeah, we can see once in this case, we can see these are structures are breaking, and we are getting extremely realistic solution using this particular scheme without worrying about the gridding aspect. Okay, so in fact, I prepared a 1 hour presentation, so I don't have much more to say about these things. Maybe we can interact few minutes and close the presentation. Is that okay, Suraj?
Yes, Manu.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Participants, please, if you have any questions, please ask. Our resource person is ready to answer it. You can raise your hand or type it in chat box. A couple of questions there, Manu.
Okay. Okay. I'll check. Okay.
Should I read it?
Yeah. I am trying to read that. Let me stop sharing. Okay. No, I can't see the chat window. Let me. I can't see, Suraj. I can't see the
Okay,
chat window.
I will read it.
Okay. Okay.
Can immerse boundary method be used to model the artery wall?
Yeah, in fact, it's all started from that particular paper. So, yeah, I think I didn't say the history of the immerse boundary method. It's started from that particular problem, the heart wall problem. Yeah, for example, if you look at our biological fluid dynamics point of view, so things are all moving. Okay, so unlike uh, other cases, other engineering problems, you look at all biomedical related application like the pumping of heart or the closing and opening of valves. So it's all moving problem. So in fact, the immerse boundary method started from that particular problem itself. So yeah, it's nowadays it's commonly used for solving biological fluid dynamics problem. It's extremely good. I hope all of you try this particular method and solve many CFD problems using this technique.
Okay, this question was from Avinash G. The second question is from Dr. V. Lijo. What is the post-processing software used in the last slide?
Yeah, we use Techplot. Yeah, we Techplot software. Yeah, we yeah, yeah, Techplot. The recent version, I don't know the version. So we use the Techplot software for plotting a post-processing application. Yeah.
So any other questions? If not, we can wind up the session.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Manu,
Yeah.
for delivering nice, detailed presentation. Also, your PPTs were very clean. Okay, you had introduced the boundary immerse method to us. Also, you detailedly explained the finite difference method. So you have split up the various terms. First, you considered transient convection terms only, then convection and diffusion, so that the participants will get a feel what is a convection term is, what is physically how it is getting convected. Also, the diffusion term is physical feeling. Also, then you combined the terms to get the solution of complete Navier-Stokes equation. So that was a systematic and stepwise procedure so that the students and the participants will be able to understand this procedure clearly. Hope the participants also might have benefited from this, and they can, those who are interested can do more and do research with the help of boundary immerse methods. Okay, thank you, Manu, for accepting our invitation and delivering a nice session.
Yeah, thank you,
Also,
thank you, sir.
the